Oh, hey everybody, how you doing there? Mr. Grizzlegrits. Look, friends, I gotta go in for my... Friends, I only get 2 haircuts a year. You know, now that I'm retired out of the Army and I don't have to deal with any of that high and tights anymore, friends. Friends, I only get a haircut like once or twice a year. Well, two or three times a year. Friends, it's not because... Well, it is because I've been a little broke. But look, friends, I'm gonna go in for the haircut. We'll be back out. Look, friends, I got a lot of weight weighing down on my heart. My heart's heavy today, friends. Friends, there's so much evil in this world, you know. It's hard to comprehend how evil people can be. And friends, I'm talking about that horrible lady over there in Texas that had pleasure and joy with the children, the white Christian children, friends. You know what I'm talking about, all those people. Friends, there's over like 100 people that have been swept away in that tragedy. And friends, you know, when I think about that lady, it really brings up a lot of memories of my work experience, working for the Department of Veteran Affairs, friends. Friends, I had to work underneath that type of leadership. I had to work under a toxic, hostile leaders, a union president, Tish Thomas. We made a video about her. Friends, this stuff's all real. These people hate us. And they don't just hate... If you're a black person and you have white friends, I mean, this lady's gonna hate on you too, friends. Friends, I'm a godly man. I'm sinful, and I'm just as evil and bad as that lady, but I'm not, friends, because every time I do bad, I pray, and I ask Jesus to forgive me, because, friends, I don't like sin. I don't like it when I sin. I don't like it when I lose my temper. Friends, life is very short, and it's a gift, and, friends, in a way, I almost understand that lady. I'm not going to say her name, friends. I'm not into the doxing. Y'all know who this lady is. I mean, everybody does. She's clammed up. She's showing pictures of her at the gun range. You know, friends, I mean, this is what happens when you do something like this. You're going to get a reaction, and maybe she didn't get the one that she expected. Because again, friends, it comes from that privilege. It comes from the brainwashing that our country's been under for the DEI, friends. Friends, my lawsuit, at the heart of my lawsuit, is a woman just like that lady, okay? Just full of hate, hates white people, blames us for every single damn thing that's ever happened. Friends, again, I almost understand that because there was a time about 15 years ago, after my first combat tour, friends. Friends, I had a chip on my shoulder. Friends, if you weren't a combat soldier, I didn't like you. I don't want to be around you. I didn't even like other veterans if they weren't combat soldiers. Friends, that's how bad my insecurities were. And friends, I'm a psychology guy for the last time. I'm a master's level trained. I mean, stop doubting me now. Friends, this lady suffers from a lot of mental illness, friends. And the evil and all that is a part of it. But friends, the lady's very insecure with herself. She's so insecure that she has to fabricate lies that white people are evil and bad, and somehow something that happened literally 200 years ago. Friends, I don't agree with it. Friends, if I lived back then, I would have been 100% against the slavery, friends. That is the worst. It's the worst. Friends, again, I'm a Christian man. Friends, I don't believe in slavery. I think it's horrible. Everybody should be free. But friends, people like her and these evil women that I had to deal with at the Bay Pines VA, friends, they use that tragedy that happened many hundreds of years ago. Friends, they use that to justify their hatred today. Friends, I was called white privilege. I was called all sorts of stuff at that work. And friends, it's all in my lawsuits, what I'm trying to explain to y'all. Friends, I endured a lot of this evil from these people. Just like this lady that's in the news now. This lady that's been canceled and lost her job. Friends, nobody knows about my situation at work. Not a lot of y'all, because it hasn't really been public, friends. It's just me barking and screaming, hey, listen. But friends, the lawsuit will be done. It might be done today, friends. It's at the judge's desk. And all she has to do is she's been... Her and her team, I'm sure, have been going through. Friends, it's been 6 months now. Friends, it's been 6 months that this lawyer, Friends, it's been 6 months since this judge has had everything and been reviewing it. Friends, these things take forever. But again, at the heart of my lawsuit, my hostile work environment lawsuit, my equal opportunity lawsuit, diversity exclusion, all that garbage, friends, is one of these evil demon black ladies, friends. Friends, when I call you a black lady, I'm being accurate. You're a lady and you're not white. You're black. I'm sorry, friends. I'm not politically correct, but I'm not a racist and I don't have hate in my heart, friends. Friends, something very tragic happened yesterday. My next door neighbor, friends, we were going to do a separate video. I didn't want to mix the two. Friends, my neighbor passed away last night. Yesterday afternoon, friends. I mean, she was in the yard watering her friend's nicest lady. Nothing but love, nothing but compassion, friends. We're going to go do something real nice for my neighbors. We're going to go to the grocery store, and we're going to load them up on as much food and groceries that I can afford right now, friends. But friends, there's no place in our country right now. We don't have no time for that hatred, friends. We don't have no time for that evil. And if you do it, it'll eventually catch up to you, like that lady. It caught up to her pretty quick because she was so arrogant with her hatred and her perverted lust for power, she didn't think this was going to happen. And now the lady's having to post pictures of her at the gun range to try to... Friends, I'm telling you, the evil goes both ways. I don't condone any violence. Please, friends, just leave this lady alone. Don't do nothing to her. God is very divine, and he's mysterious, friends. And it ain't up for us to get vengeance. That's why I prayed for my enemies at work, friends. Every day I prayed for these people. I still pray for y'all. Because y'all are, I told y'all, friends, the trick is, if you imagine this horrible lady in Houston, Texas, who's unemployed now, from what I understand. But friends, if you imagine her as a little baby, friends, she don't know no better. Friends, that's how she's behaving now. And it's so horrible. But friends, we gotta be kind to people. Friends, you never know when God might just, or the devil, friends. I mean, look, friends, I told you, every day I'm trying to repent, My salvation's squared away, but friends, I'm not saying I have doubt, but I still fall, friends. And I don't want Jesus to come back right when I'm in the middle of being angry or something, friends. He might just say, look, you're gonna hang around here for 7 years until you get your act together. Friends, we gotta learn to be humble. And we can't have hatred, friends, not anymore. A lot of y'all put up with that DEI because you had to, or you'd lose your job. Friends, I'm like the only person that I know that didn't take the COVID shot, friends. I'm like the only person that I personally know that did not take that shot. Friends, I don't know. You gotta pray. You gotta pray, and you gotta trust God. God will not steer you astray. You're gonna go through some hard times. And look, friends, my neighbors, their nightmare just began yesterday, friends. They don't have, the mom's not there. The wife's gone. She's in heaven now, friends. I mean, it is like, friends, it was like that. I heard her in the backyard watering, and then the ambulance was there, and then she was gone, friends. I mean, you have got to stop doing the evil if y'all are doing it. And friends, you got to be kind to people. Friends, I told you, that's why I think God picked me, because friends, I'm a horrible man, but I try to be a good man. And when something tragic happens, like the children or anything, friends, I don't agree with a lot of things that go on, but I can't do everything. I can't fix everything, friends. But the Lord took that lady home yesterday, friends, and the Lord provided an opportunity for me and the other neighbors to help step up and help uplift our neighbors, friends. Friends, the whole sermon at church on Sunday was about community and about supporting your neighbors. And friends, I had no idea that literally the day after that sermon, God would literally, it's like, friends, I got really angry at my wife on the way to church, friends. We don't always communicate. Friends, I figured it out. I was an E7 when I retired. And my wife was a soldier. She was like an E4 and below, friends. And I'm not saying one's better than the other, but friends, when you're a Joe, you expect the sergeants to take care of everything. You just show up and, make sure your uniform's good. Friends, but what my job was to make sure everyone was safe and got home, and that's why I'm learning that my wife and I have friction. She just expects everything to be safe, but now she's learning that, well, I have a lot to do with that, I gave them a safety brief before they went off to their little venture today, friends, because they went off and did kid stuff. Friends, I'm sorry for being long-winded. I just got so much on my chest. I'm not trying to mix all these tragedies, friends. Friends, what happened in the flood, friends, friends, you just never know. That breaks my heart, friends. I can't imagine any colored child, friends, any child, having to... Friends, I just can't imagine. And the Lord has allowed me to, in great detail, envision what had happened that night, friends, and that morning. It's so horrible. Friends, we gotta be kind. You never know. You just never know. Friends, friends, today might be your day. Friends, you might have a heart attack watching this live transmission. I don't know, friends. You better start thinking, getting right. And you better start doing some nice for some people. You better stop getting on TikTok and doing all this damn evil, friends. I ain't got no more time for that. And neither does everybody else. All right, friends, I gotta go get this squared away. Friends, I have no idea what to do with this. Friends, I'm living in my own nightmare with this hair, but I got no problems, friends. Friends, again. Friends, I have neglected my wife, and the Lord allowed both of us to go through that hell last year, and we're both growing and learning, friends. But it's like being accelerated what happened to my neighbor, my nice neighbor. His wife is... friends, I don't know. We just got to start praying. I got to go get my hair cut. All right, y'all take care now. You stay safe. Grizzle. All right, friends, what do you think? The lady did pretty nice. Look what she had to work with. Y'all saw me before I went in there. Hot mess. She took it down a little. She took it a little shorter than I like. But look, friends, it's okay. Friends, we're heading to the grocery store now. We got a mission, friends. Friends, my neighbor died yesterday. My neighbor died, friends. She was a cop. All right, right, friends, what do you think? The lady did pretty nice. I mean, look what she had to work with. I mean, y'all saw me before I went in there. Hot mess, hot mess. I mean, she took it down a little. She took it a little shorter than I like. But look, friends, it's okay. Friends, we're heading to the grocery store now. We got a mission, friends. Friends, my neighbor died yesterday. My neighbor died, friends. She was a kind lady. She was very understanding. Friends, this lady helped me spiritually and emotionally last year when my family was going through this evil. And she was one of the first people I told when God put my family back together. Friends, she's in heaven now, but she left 2 grown sons and a good friend of mine, my neighbor. He's an Air Force veteran. Friends, these people need some support, so I'm gonna go get some groceries. Publix down here in Florida, we got a lot of good fried chicken and the sandwich platters. And I know these guys like to eat, so we're gonna go help them out, friends. Friends, you gotta do the right thing in times of need. Y'all stay grizzly now. Look, friends, you know where I'm at if you watch the last couple videos, friends. I'm at Publix, and I'm getting some groceries for my neighbors that lost their mom and their spouse. Friends, I'm walking to my truck, and a man comes up to me. He's one of the guys that works here. He's like, "Hey, Sergeant Grizzlegrits, do you remember me?" And I'm like, "Oh my goodness." He goes, I've been wanting to run into you." And I'm thinking, "Oh my goodness, I owe this man money. Where the heck does this guy know me from?" Friends, when on election day, I was around here goofing off in my character, in my truck, in my costume, and I met this guy at one of the polling places. And I told him about my story, and he was out there with a sign and a flag. You know, he's a Trump guy, but he says that he lost the card I gave him, and he's been trying to get a hold of me. I don't know why he didn't think from him to Google me. Maybe he forgot the whole Sergeant Grizzlegrits. But friends, I just ran into another supporter in the parking lot. And this guy and I are gonna start hanging out and going to the gym, friends. I'm telling you, there's no such thing as a coincidence. Friends, I didn't need a sign from God, but that was a sign from God that he couldn't find me on YouTube because they removed it. All right, friends.